All right, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, June 20th. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, come up to the microphone and give us your thoughts. I'm going to ask for a change on the agenda tonight. Under new business, we're going to remove temporarily, at least, A and B, the conditional rezoning. Council has asked for more time to give some consideration to this. So I'll need a motion to do that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
I got a couple of questions, Bill.
Yep.
Is this going now, we're back to planning?
No, I don't believe so.
No, come back to
We
us.
can change ordinance as council, to what the planning commission wrote?
I don't know that that's, I don't know if that's even an option.
And
We-
why are
we have- we have
It's
it-
got to go back to planning, right, if you're gonna change ordinance?
I don't think we're changing the ordinance.
I think all we need is more time to think about it and look it over at this point.
I don't know.
We're not sending it back to the planning commission. We want more time for
We're gonna look
consideration.
at the existing ordinance,
That might be part of it.
is what you're telling me? I'm just curious what we're gonna do, because the planning commission did their job, and now we're disputing what they're recommending.
And we can put recommendations in if we want to change it and improve it. We're just asking for more time to review it.
All right,
Any other questions? All right, then, the motion is made, supported. I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Kinsbatter,
Yes.
Lehman,
no,
Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bolts,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. All right, I'll ask for a roll call, please,
Cedar,
here.
Kinsbatter,
Here.
Lehman,
yeah, here,
Kufa,
Here.
Laporte,
Here.
Hall,
here,
Bolts,
Here.
all present, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We'll go to 4, consent agenda. A, City Council minutes of June 6, 2022, special and regular meetings, recommendation approved. B is the Planning Commission minutes of May 11th, 2022, meeting recommendation received. C is the Cemetery Board of Trustees minutes of May 10th, 2022, recommendation received.
Motion to approve A through C as presented.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This time, I'm going to open the public hearing on number 5, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Project Plan. Mark from Fishbeck is here, is going to walk us through this.
Thank you guys for having me. So I'll just give them a 30-second kind of intro. I'm Mark Parsley. I'm a senior process engineer with Fishbeck. I've actually been here before. I did the water treatment plant study that kind of identified a lot of these issues at the plant. So we're familiar with the plant, and we've also done, this is an update of last year's project plan. So just before I get started, just wanted to give kind of regards to your staff, Tom at the plant, Warren, and now Annette working with us. They've been active in the project, engaged, and really made this an easy project plan to come up with. So that being said, I'll get into it. So the purpose of the meeting is to have a public hearing for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program. So that's, I'll get into that here in a second. So we'll address some of the water system needs as part of that project plan, some alternatives that we looked at. Part of the project plan is looking at environmental social impacts, looking at project financing, what the anticipated cost to the users would be for the revolving fund application, and then also to receive any public comments that anyone would have on the project plan. So the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program is a state program. It's federal dollars administered by the state. So it's administered by EGLE, Department of Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. And it offers low interest loans to water suppliers. So we listed the loan rate for fiscal year 2022, and it's 1.875% for a 20-year loan, 2.125% for a 30-year loan. And once the loan closes, that rate's locked in. So if you had any questions on kind of the increasing interest rates right now, I assume these would go up, but once you close on that, that's a locked-in rate for the entirety of the loan. So the summary of the project need as part of the plan. So the need is the water treatment plant, and it was kind of born out of that study we did a few years ago. The treatment plant was constructed in '78, and a lot of the components are original to the plant. So a lot of the equipment has reached kind of the end of its useful life. There is some operational issues with some of them, some things the plant has to kind of go above and beyond to maintaining that. And then as the industry has evolved, some of the processes are kind of outside what would be considered kind of standard, current day standard design and regulatory standards as what's come out since '78. So we looked at two different alternatives. We looked at connecting to a regional water utility, looking at connecting to a neighboring plant and what that would look like and cost. And then the other would be to optimize or kind of improve the existing facility and get everything up to the current standard and operating correctly. We also looked at, as part of the project plan, a water main improvement. And this is an additional aspect of the project plan since last year's, and this is new in the update because it does generate a better score as part of the list that Eagle comes out with. So we looked at a water main improvement, and one of the main issues that we see in the distribution system is obviously you have an industrial park and a large water user on the north side, and then there's a long dead end of water main that goes there. So there are potential fire flow and some pressure issues that they experience on that north end, and that dead end being about 1 mile in length. So we looked at a couple different alternatives, a no action alternative and doing nothing. And then also looking at some looping that would increase connectivity in that area and increase pressures and fire flow. All right, so for the water treatment plant part of the plan, the first alternative we looked at is connecting to a regional water supply. So we connected with Marysville, and their superintendent has some familiarity here with your plant, Barry. So we talked to him and kind of figured out what it would look like to connect to their system and how to bring water to St. Clair from there. And these are very conceptual looks. Like, we don't take a real deep dive. These are alternatives that are required as part of the project plan. So, we don't look too in depth at some of this alternative. What it would consist of is we would have about 3 miles of transmission main. We looked at Range Road coming down. We'd have to hook up to Marysville system there. And it would require a booster pump metering station. We would look for a dual feed, so you'd have some reliability in case you had a break in that main. And then it would require some water main improvements both in Marysville and in St. Clair. So some of the disadvantages of that is you lose kind of local control of your own water supply. You're kind of at the mercy of their plant and their reliability, redundancy. What happens if, for say, they lose power? How does that affect you guys? And also you lose that revenue source through your billing. So the estimated cost of that alternative is about $31 million. And again, that's kind of a high flying estimate. It may not, they're usually pretty conservative when we get to this level, but it may not be too far off seeing what the current pricing and how things are currently. So that was the first alternative we looked at. The other alternative is obviously just optimizing the existing facility, making improvements there. And that is a lot of the improvements that were born out of that treatment plant study that we did a few years ago. Oop. Like I said, the plant's closing in on 50 years old. So a lot of the equipment is closing in on that 50-year life, which is typically above what engineering design life is. And then some of the standards have evolved. One of the standards we look, and Eagle looks at pretty heavily, is 10 state standards. So we did a review of that as it is related to your plant when we did the study. And there were some things that we found that we weren't up to kind of that standard or code, if you will. So that study kind of addressed how to get the plant up to those standards. And then one of the interesting things we discovered, and the plant has since kind of seen that, is when the plant was constructed, an administrative rule was passed in the legislation that's called the 4-filter rule. So if you have 4 filters or more, you get the full capacity of those 4 filters. If you have 3 or less, you have to assume your plant capacity is kind of an N-1. So you guys have 3 filters, so you're not quite to that 4. So your plant, technically the plant capacity would be 2 MGD. You would lose that 1, assuming, a filter would be down for maintenance. That's how the state looks at it. So you guys were grandfathered in because the plant was put online right when that code passed, or that administrative rule. And just recently, Eagle has derated the plant to 2 MGD. And that's, you guys do get your demands do kind of push that 2 MGD running at the current hours you do at the plant. So that was a concern. And this is kind of addressing, this project plan would address that issue. So we looked at we touched all areas of the plant. So this is kind of a summary, a flow schematic of the treatment plant. So you have the St. Clair River where the source water comes from, and then the Shorewell pump station is where it pumps out of the river into the plant. That's further situated in town. So that's in the yellow there. The blue is what we would call the pre-treatment stage. So that's coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, a typical conventional plant. So we looked at improvements associated with the pre-treatment system. The dark blue there, the sand and anthracite gravity filters, that's your 3 kind of finishing filters that you have. That's what I talked about with the derating of the plant. So we looked at making improvements there and also adding another filter to get you out of that kind of derated. So you'd have 4 filters, so you'd get the full capacity of the filtration step. And then the orange there is your chem feed. So aluminum sulfite you guys use as a coagulant, sodium hypo for disinfection, and fluoride. So we looked at improvements to those systems. They're pretty antiquated, and the control is lacking a little bit in how the plant controls and monitors those systems. The green is kind of some ancillary systems associated with the plant. So there's some Venturi flow meters which measure the flow into and out of the plant. Those need improvements to be a little more accurate for housekeeping purposes. A lot of the electrical instrumentations and controls is out of date, and there are some issues there. So that would be upgrading those and replacing a lot of that electrical and controls equipment. And then some of the building components, the HVAC system, some of that is malfunctioning and needs replacement. Some of the plumbing systems, sump pumps, that type of thing, those are old and need to be replaced and need to be rerouted to different spots of the plant, and then the roof needs to be replaced as well. All right, just a little bit deeper dive, and I'll try not to get too into the weeds here. So the Shorewell pump station that's on the river there, we're looking at replacing the low service pumps, motors, the VFDs, and the control panel in there that controls those pumps. And then, there would most likely be some electrical and piping improvements that would need to be made as part of those to replace those components. The treatment plant improvements, like I said, that pre-treatment, kind of that middle part of the plant, a lot of the equipment is old and is hard to maintain. So we would replace that with newer technology equipment, new mechanical rapid mixers, sludge collection system, flocculators. The existing baffle wall needs to be modified to get it up to the current standards. And then we need to add some additional tube settlers to get the capacity up to the current standards. So these improvements would bring you kind of into that the current standards of 10 states, which Eagle looks at to kind of inspect and regulate your plant. The filtration improvements that we would be looking to make is the media is original to the plant. Usually media's, every 10 years, and we're closing in on 50 years for that media. So we'd replace the media under drains. We would add some air scour to increase the efficiency of the backwash process of that. New valves and actuators to control the processes associated with the filters, and then new transfer pumps that pump out of the filters and into the ground storage reservoir. A new sump pump system is needed, and there's also a single backwash pump associated with the filters, And as part of the water treatment plant study, we came up with a redundant way to do that without having to add a second backwash pump. So we'd add some piping to do that, to be able to backwash out of the ground storage reservoir. And then finally adding that fourth filter to comply with that 4-filter rule that we talked about. So chem feed systems, Eagles is requesting an additional disinfection feed point at the end of the plant to be able to adjust chlorine residual as the water leaves the plant. So we would add that, and then we would add a new SCADA system to the chem feed, and what that is control and automation, so that the plant could better monitor that chem feed system and control it from the control room and not having to manually adjust things as flow rate and conditions change throughout the day. And then some of the other improvements, like I said, we would replace those existing flow meters with new magnetic flow meters and increase the accuracy of the metering in and out of the plant. We would replace the existing SCADA system, which is supervisory control and data acquisition. So currently, the plant's been set up with kind of an antiquated SCADA system for control that's proprietary, I think, to some local group tiered on the east side of the state. So we'd replace that with kind of an industry-wide SCADA program that is more easily configurable, and there'd be some support to be able, in case we needed to add something or change something in that software. Like I said, the outdated electrical components we replaced. We would add some VFDs for the high service pumping to better allow the plant to control the output of the plant during the varying times of the day when demands kind of go up and down. HVAC components, touched on that, and then there's some plumbing improvements and the roof replacement that would happen at the plant. So another thing that we added to the project plan is, currently that's actually wrong. The current capacity is 2. It was designed at 3, but now it's been derated to 2. So we're going to fix that with that new 4th filter. But to get everything in the plant up to a rated capacity or 4 or more, we would need to add a 3rd floc sed tank, a flocculation sedimentation tank, for that pre-treatment process, because currently that would be the limiting process after we added that 4th filter. So we've added that to the project plan because it is an expansion, and Eagle kind of has the discretion on whether to approve an expansion part of the project for the DWSRF funding. That would be kind of at their discretion. So we would have to, once they review it, we would see whether or not that passed through their review. So kind of here's a summary of the plan again. The shore well pumping station being up in that upper left with your 3 pumps that pump into the plant, the floc sed basins, and you can see where we're looking at adding that 3rd one. And then from there it goes into the filters where you currently have 3. We'd be looking at a 4th. And then from there it goes into high service. Well, actually it goes into a transfer pump, a clear well and a transfer pump, pumps into the ground storage tank, and then there's high service pumps that pump it into that elevated tank. So again, we're kind of touching most parts of the plant because it is 50 years old and a lot of that equipment's the original. So hopefully this sets you guys up for another 50 years. So just a little deeper dive in that water main improvement. We looked at constructing 1,600 lineal feet of 12-inch water main, and that's kind of at the south end of that industrial park and looping around there. There's I'm trying to remember the roads in here. Yep. So there's an existing line at Highland Drive and Range. So we'd go a new 12-inch water main north, parallel to the railroad track there on the east side of, I think that's Engineering Plastic Components. And then we'd connect back west to the existing 12-inch at Jordan Creek and Christian Haas streets there. So just by adding that little bit there of water main, we do see a lot of benefit to the pressure and fire flow at the Magna complex to the north. All right, so this is the estimated project cost summary. So on the left there is the water treatment plant improvements. So the shore well pumping station, about $490,000. The pre-treatment, about 1.15 million. The new filtration, so replacing a lot of the components in the existing filters and then adding that fourth would be 2.84 million. The chem feed improvements, 181,000. Flow meters, 113. The electrical and control improvements, 1.2. The building improvements, about 500,000, and then some high service improvements there, 160,000. So that last bit of it, that kind of the lion's share, that $3 million, that is that expansion piece. So that's the one that's still kind of at Eagle's discretion on if they would approve that for funding or not. So we felt good about it in discussing on the preliminary that they would include it, but there's still that unknown there. So without that, we're about 6.6 and not 9.6. And then the water main improvements about 1.25 million on that 1,600 feet of 12-inch water main. So part of the project plan, we have to look at environmental impacts, social impacts, construction impacts. So the environmental impacts, we didn't see anything historical, archaeological, no long-term impacts to the natural environment. A lot of the projects are kind of on existing property that you have. They wouldn't affect surface water or groundwater quality. We did look at the social and economic impacts. Public health and safety, increased water quality and reliability. And then, the construction phase would bring in some economic impact to the local area. And then in the construction phase, obviously, there's going to be construction vehicles, access, noise, the water plant kind of being right in the middle of that residential area. So there would be some construction phase impacts. Some mitigation measures for those impacts, the short term, being able to control traffic routes and where trucks come in and out of the project site, air emissions, dust control, noise control, designated work hours. We would have, the contractor we would have in our plan a soil erosion and sedimentation control, and there would be a permit associated the contractor would need to get. And then, we would restore the site to the existing and topsoil, grass, mulch, pavement, wherever, whether that's the water main improvement or the plant improvement. So long-term, any contaminated soils would be removed and disposed of that we find as you get into design. And then again, we'd have a soil erosion plan that would be filed with the county health department and reviewed by Eagle. Some indirect mitigation, so the improvements would not conflict with zoning or master plan initiatives as we understand it. So the project financing and user costs, so if everything was approved in the plan, including that $3 million for the expansion of the Flockstead tanks, that would be about $10.9 million. So the estimated cost to users, if you guys would go with a 20-year loan, that would be $2.12 per 1,000 gallons used. On a 30-year loan, it would be about $1.60 per 1,000 gallons used. And then again, interest rates are determined by Eagle for each loan cycle. And, once you close on the loan, that interest rate is set for the life of the loan. And then the city allocates costs evenly between all users, whether that be residential, commercial, industrial. So it's consistent across all your users. It wouldn't be different for your industrial users versus your residential users. So the hearing advertisement was on May 19th. And then the project plan was uploaded to the city site with that link. So any public comments received before today will be incorporated in the project plan, and anything that's, any comments that are given tonight as well. All right. So any questions on the project plan, the DWSRF process, or the loan in general? I can hopefully answer your guys' questions or comments.
Go ahead, Micah.
If we don't get the funding for the third flocculation sediment basin, that cost could be, do we get to the 4 million gallons daily without that?
No, you can't. You'd be about 3.6.
So we'd be rated for 3.6?
Yes.
Okay, that
Yep.
was one of my, is that something we should, can it be added later if we don't?
Yeah, it can be added later. And the way the plant's set up is it's pretty easy just to kind of append a new building right on the side of the existing tanks. That would be the plan if we ended up doing this as part of the project plan. So the plant's set up to do that later if you wanted to.
Okay. And do we, if we're making 3.6 or 4 million gallons daily, do we have the storage capacity for that much water in the city?
Yeah, so that's one thing that, and we kind of talked about with Warren when we were digging in the weeds a little bit, is, there may be a need for storage capacity that wasn't, you guys get a sanitary survey every few years from Eagle that looks at your whole distribution system, and storage wasn't something that was brought up by Eagle, but it is something that we're going to look at as part of the reliability study, which we're doing right now. And we'll do a storage assessment and see if that's something that you guys need in the future. Typically, if Eagle kind of does their own storage assessment as part of that sanitary survey, and if it's something that they really want you to have, they'll note it as a recommendation or a deficiency on your sanitary survey, and then that's something that you follow up on.
But that survey would have been based on the current status of the plant at 2 million gallons
Right, but a
daily.
lot of that is demand. So I think the demands may change a little bit from your last reliability study, because Eagle looks at that previous one, which I think was a 2016 or 17 was the last time you guys had one.
Okay.
So they'll look at those demands, but that was before you had your
Downrating.
big user there. So
Oh, yeah.
On this next one, we'll identify that increased demand as part of this reliability study, and then when Eagle does their sanitary survey, they'll look at that and see if that's something that you guys would need in the future. But we'll be able to tell you guys that as part of the reliability study, whether we would recommend storage.
So they're calculating usage versus replenishment on that demand based on our storage, because if they're pulling and you're producing, when we go from 2 to 4, you're not storing 4.
Yeah, so
storing
demands
two.
don't really look at we look at the actual historical water usage, and then if you guys plan any growth or have had any growth, we'll look at what, say you're adding some residential area, we'll look at how many houses that plan to add. We've worked pretty closely with Magna as they've kind of started up that facility and did a lot of flow testing and looked at their demands. So, when you have big single point users, we kind of get involved with them to make sure that we understand their water usage too. So then we can try to project that moving forward, and project that, because the reliability study looks at current demands and also tries to project demands 20 years down the road, so we can have a good idea of what, how that curve moves from right now to then based on growth, population, that type of thing.
So we're meeting the demands out there at Magnum right now.
Yeah, so you guys operate a 2-shift plant. So even though you're a 2 MGD plant right now, that would be if you would run all day at 2 MGD, because you run at 2 shifts. It's the capacity is the same as 2, but you don't produce as much water in 16 hours versus 24. It's 2/3 of it. So, you guys could always go to 3 shifts to be able to provide 2, but looking at some of your historical demands and talking with Tom, there are some times you guys run kind of up at that 2 MGD per day.
Talking out in the north end industrial park, we're supplying, we got adequate water right now, correct? What's out there?
Yeah, for the demands that we said, we'd have to look at, we're still kind of going through the reliability study, but 2 is pushing it. And typically, once you get 80% of what your plant's rated at, so 80%, that would be 1.6. Once you get to 1.6, which you guys definitely are over some days, Eagle requires you to look at increasing the capacity. How would you source? That's kind of their benchmark. If you show demands that are above 80% of what your plant's rated at, they start to look at, they'll make you look at increasing the capacity or looking for source water elsewhere.
I guess what I'm asking is the $1 million water loop really don't have to happen right now.
No, well, If you do it as part of the DWSRF, you have to use it within a certain timeline of the loan. You have a certain amount of time before the loan, you have to close that loan. So if you don't, then you lose the ability to use the DWSRF. It doesn't have to happen right now, but
We're doing fine without it, correct? Flying water out that end.
to Magna, I mean, I think they're okay right now. They have, I mean, I don't know how in tune Annette got to Warren, but we worked with Warren quite a bit, meeting with Magna because they were having low pressure issues out there during certain times of the day. So we did a bunch of hydrant testing and all sorts of stuff out there. But we did some more hydrant testing as part of the reliability study. And some of those questions will be answered as part of that reliability study if we have adequate pressure out there.
Well, what about the, on planning, we have two projects that are moving forward. They're both housing. And we've asked council to consider our capability of furnishing it. One is like, what, 75 and one's 250 apartments, you know,
Yep.
like it. Is this figured into this? If we do this, is this gonna,
So that would be part of the reliability study. So we'll look at that as part of this water main looping. So we received the model from Warren to be able to look at this water main looping scenario because the model does show the pressure meets the minimum state standard, but it is low. And if Magna increases their water use any bit more, then you'll start to continue to see that go down. But we have, as part of that reliability study that we're doing right now, those are the growth areas that we're looking at. I think we do have, Warren had sent over some of that information on those proposed developments, and we're looking at how those affect the system.
so when we get a note back from the engineers and that type of thing that said we have the capability, is that you that's answering that, or?
The reliability, yeah, we're Fishback is doing the reliability study, so we would be able to we're gonna look at those growth areas and say, you know, if you add this much demand in this area, what does that do to pressure?
Because these are on our desk now,
Okay.
projects that are moving forward.
So, Mark,
Yeah.
I have two questions, and you've already kind of touched on them, but
Yep.
I'm going to ask them again, and I hopefully frame them in an intelligent way that I can help me understand anyway. So, we have 3 filters, but rated at 2.
Correct.
It says we can produce 2 million gallons of water per day.
Yeah.
That's on a 2-shift program.
That's if you were running the plant all out 24 hours.
Okay,
So if you ran a 2-shift, you'd only be able to produce 2/3 of that.
Right.
So 1.3 or 4, whatever that is.
So what are we producing a day? I thought we were close to 2 million a day right now.
So this is where it gets real confusing. You can produce 3 MGD, but the state only sees you as a 2 MGD plant because you still have 3 filters. If you're running all 3 of those filters at the same time, you can produce 3 MGD. The issue is the state's rated capacity.
Right.
And then once you close in on that number, then they look to kind of ask questions about how are you going to supply. So it's that 2 MGD is just kind of a administrative rated capacity. You guys can still produce 3, but you're a 2 MGD plant.
So that was when I was sitting here listening to you, I was trying to figure out or think about. So if we're running 2 shifts, and where you can produce 3,
Yes.
and I understand that Eagle's saying, well, I don't care if you can produce it, you need to have 4 filters. I
Yep.
get that. I just want to, I guess in my mind, am I saying to you, if we can produce that 3, we're not in a situation where, well, we can't make enough water.
Yeah, I think there's been a handful of times that Tom, at least when communicated to us, that he felt like you guys were running all out and barely keeping up. And those are those really hot days, once a year or a couple times a year.
But would it be accurate for me to say to you, Mark, that could happen if we had 4 filters?
It's true. It's true.
So now here's my other question then. This water main looping,
Yes.
would that increase the pressure for north end residential users or just industrial.
That whole north end, you would see a benefit to both available fire flow and pressures.
Residential, commercial, industrial,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Would a water tower handle that without doing the loop?
So we do. We're looking at a water tower as part of the reliability study as a potential improvement. And that would be located, kind of very close to Magna site on that North Industrial Park, or kind of in that, where is that the high school, right? That's up there as well?
Middle school.
Middle school. So we are looking at that. A water tower helps you kind of during peaking. So, on the hottest day of the year for in the morning when everyone's running their irrigation, you'll see that your tank, that's what the tank is typically there for, and for fire flow. So it wouldn't really help with kind of everyday pressures, because your pumps can only pump as high as they can pump right now. And that's even farther out. So the pumps would struggle to pump that high, that far out. But there would be something where, like, you could pump in the middle of the night when no one's using water and fill up that tank, and then in the morning when everyone turns on their sprinklers or Magna runs first shift, that tank could help with that. But it wouldn't help pressures per se.
What's the cost of the tank versus the loop?
So a tip, I couldn't tell you the size, but I could tell you after we've finished the reliability study. We just did a 1.5 million gallon tank at Michigan State University, and that was about $4 million. And I don't think you guys would be in that realm.
It was $4 million
It's $4 million.
Because I heard a number somewhere that 750,000 gallons is probably $5 million, but it sounded to me like that's a little high. Mine.
I think that's a little high.
Yeah.
Does it resolve a storage issue if we need to go that direction?
Well, I don't know. So I couldn't tell you if you had a storage issue yet or not. That would be, we're doing that as part of the reliability study.
But that might be an alternative.
It could be.
Doing a loop in a storage tank.
Yep, it could be. The other issue, the other thing the loop solves is you have a mile-long dead end, and to a pretty big customer, if there was any break in that mile-long dead end, that would be some bad news for your north end customers. So it provides a little bit of reliability where you could shut off a section of that south end. We did look at looping it all the way around, going through the township, looping it to have a full redundant loop. Very expensive, but that would kind of, I think in the future that would be our recommendation as the goal, is to try to get 2 feeds out to that north end, try to loop all the way around. I think the old reliability study that you guys had, the 2016 or 17, showed a lot of looping to get water to that north end of the system.
So, Mark, I guess I have another question.
Yeah.
Tower versus looping, which provides our residents the better pressure, reliability, whatever?
So the pressure benefits are going to come from looping, and it reduces the head loss pushing water to that north end of the system, so you'll get less pressure drop, especially you'll see it on higher demand days in the summer. But a tank would give you saying kind of an additional pot of water. Tank will help with the fire flow, and it'll help with those like peak days. So they kind of both offer a benefit, but if you wanted to see pressure and reliability, a loop to that end would be the best, because then if you had a break in one side, you could still feed that side through a second main.
So a 1.2 at Michigan State was 4 million. And I've heard 750,000 gallons might be 5, and you're thinking that's sounding high.
Well, I hate to say it sounds high. I'm always surprised at prices that I see nowadays, especially with steel and stuff that involves a lot of labor. So depending on when you heard that number, we could be, I mean, we're seeing like 30 to 50% increases on some different equipment.
Okay, my last question for now, I think. When this discussion starts getting more serious, I guess, about a water tower, is 750,000 gallons, does it have to be that big?
I think our preliminary size, when we looked at, because we looked at a loop all the way around for this alternative, and we had a tank in there looking at how a tank affects it. I think we were at $500,000 to $750,000 is probably where you guys would land. And a lot of that depends too on planned expansion out there. I know, before Warren left, he had mentioned Magna had, a couple different phases they were thinking about expanding that way. So if that was true, or if your development is towards that way, it may be safer to have a bigger tank.
And will you tell us in this water study that if in fact we have to have a 750,000 gallon tank, we can fill that every day
Yep.
with what we have or
Yep.
with what we're going to get?
Yep. We'll tell you what we think the height needs to be, the size needs to be, and then we'll do model runs to look at making sure that your high service pumps can get it that far. What the tank drop looks like on a max day, those types of things.
All right. Anybody else?
I got a question. What's township portion of this?
We haven't discussed the funding mechanisms yet as far as that goes, but I
What's-
believe the
what's
contract's
standard? What are they norm-
25%.
What are they normally?
I believe it's 25%.
5%, so we're looking at hopefully getting 25% from the township.
Ideally.
So would that come off the 10 million that we're asking for?
I'm not sure how. I don't think so. I mean, it's not a separate. I think since you guys are applying for the loan would be with you, and you'd have to figure out something with the township and how to work that out to be.
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
Anybody
Or
else?
else the township would have to have a separate application, and that would be kind of a mess.
Yeah. Is it time for public?
Yeah.
Anybody? Anybody else in council? All right, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was a good presentation.
That's great.
Appears you know a little bit about water.
Try.
Yeah. Okay, so I will at this time close the public hearing. We'll move on to number 6, ordinance and resolution 2215 DWSRF Water System Improvement Final Project Plan.
Just prior to the meeting, you received an updated copy of the resolution for your consideration. The only change is in the second paragraph. It just gives a more detailed explanation. Other than that, the intent is the same. So we're looking for a motion and a second to approve the resolution, please.
I'll make the motion.
Support.
All right, the motion is made, supported. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Volz,
Yes.
Kinsvater,
Yes.
Lehman, Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes,
Motion declared adopted.
thank you. Thank you, Mark. Courts Administration, City Superintendent. Hey, Ed, got anything over there?
Yes, sir. The city received a grant of $35,000 from DNR Waterways Grant Program for the preliminary engineering of the harbor broadside dockage evaluation. That was submitted by Evan Marsh on behalf of the city, working closely with Dave as the harbor master. So that's good news. The info on that will be shared as it comes in. And just an update over at the harbor, that new restroom flooring installation is complete. It looks great. You should go check it out. The drinking water asset management plan update is still in progress, and the water sewer rate study by Municipal Analytics is expected to be received next month. I'll keep you updated on both of those. At Hillside Cemetery, there were 3 decorative urns installed, 2 at the entrance by Palmer and 1 large one in Section 3. It's the hope of the board that that a large urn is placed in each section, and a sponsorship donation program is being discussed to make that happen. The absent voter applications for the August 2nd primary election are available. Thank you to Morgan for taking the lead on processing those. Been a huge help. And I know I sent this information to you already, but the surface water intake protection plan was approved by Eagle. So that's great news too. That was created in partnership with Project Control Engineering. And lastly, thank you for approving the drinking water system improvement plan.
Questions for
That's all I
Annette?
have.
All right, we'll go to B. Nothing from Mr. Downey tonight. Any city departments? Anybody have any? Chief?
Mayor, Council, I got a couple things. First of all, Safety Town was a success, was well attended, and thank you, Mayor, for taking your turn in the tank.
Chief set a new record for getting dunked.
Yeah, 24 times. Also, this Thursday, I just want to let you know, I will be participating in Big Wheels Deliver Meals on Wheels. I'm going to deliver meals, they said 5 or 6 meals in the city of St. Clair to help them with their millage coming up. So I will be, and if anybody wants to join me, I will be leaving here at 10:30 to go up there and get my meals.
What day is this on?
Thursday. And then lastly, I just want to answer the speeding issue on South Riverside that the gentleman brought up last council meeting. First of all, we were out there after he complained the first time and didn't get anything. But I just want to explain, when I put resources out there, historically, police departments, we focus on busy roads and crash-prone areas, basically, for 2 reasons. One, there's volume of traffic. The more traffic there is, the more safety issues we can address by warnings or citations. And that usually trickles down to the rest of the town. Now, we don't get every bad person, but it does well. Plus, when we're in a high-traffic area, it deters. So when someone passes one of our guys on the major roads, hopefully they go into the neighborhoods and mind their P's and Q's, basically. So that's one reason why we stay in the high volume areas. Secondly, or next, when I receive a complaint about speeders, which I get every day, everybody's street in town is the most dangerous street in town. And we try and do our best. I usually have one, most of the time 2 guys on at a time. So when we're sitting on Vine, we can't be sitting on M29. And when we're on M29, we can't be on South Riverside. So we do our best. And the way I do that is when I get a complaint, I put out an email blast telling the guys to work the area, be visible, run radar. Then, if it's available, I have Officer Elu put out the radar detector, the little box. Then I use the physical observations from the officers and the box, put it together, and decide the best way to deploy the resources I have. The box on South Riverside was out from June 8th at 9:41 p.m. to June 17th till 10:23 p.m. 938 cars passed that machine during that time frame. The posted speed limit is 25. The average speed that this machine collected was 25 miles an hour. The fastest vehicle was 43 miles an hour. And I know for a fact Colin went 42 miles an hour to calibrate this thing when he hung it, and Officer Patchett had basically a hot call at the apartments, so he was probably one of these high speeds. So this printout I get tells me the enforcement rating is low. So if I have a busy summer day, it doesn't make sense for me to deploy resources to this address if I have speeders other places. I got the same day that the complaint came in on South Riverside, I got one at Vine and Cox area. We sat there, we wrote 7 tickets there, 7 tickets, and slowed people down. So I just want to let you know that's how I do it. When I get a complaint, I put them out there, and then I take all the information and try to deploy the resources the best I can to benefit the whole city. I can't just pick one block or one citizen. I have to do the best I can for everybody. So that's that.
Thank you, Chief. Well done.
Good job.
Is there anything else you want to talk to us about?
That's coming up.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other city departments? D, authorities and boards, commissions. No unfinished business. Go to number 9C, approved permit application for annual 4th of July fireworks display. Sturdy?
Yes.
Or Chief, or,
Nope,
go ahead. All right.
There's an application before you. It is required for any public fireworks display, even though the display is being put on by the city, the local government unit needs to approve the application. So that is what is before you today. So we're just looking for approval.
Motion to
of the-
approve.
Support. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, D, extend 4th of July 4th vendor hours.
Yes, our ordinance states vendor hours are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. For the 4th of July celebration. We asked to extend those hours until the end of the fireworks display.
So moved.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
E, purchase of 2022 Ford Escape.
In your packet was a detailed memo from the building department in regards to purchasing one vehicle. It's pretty specific as to the due diligence that was completed to get this vehicle. We did look at My Deal First. Multiple local dealerships were called. Availability was considered. Ultimately, the request is what is before you today for the Ford Escape, and I'm looking for that purchase amount.
Is this a budgeted item?
This is not a budgeted item. It has been discussed with the finance department, and the purchase is approved pending council determination.
And did we look at possibly leasing versus buying?
Let's see, I think he did look into leasing, and let's see why he didn't. Just reviewing the memo here to see if he included that conversation. I know we talked about it.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't feasible?
I don't think so. It would have been in here.
And then, I mean, I might not be right, but in the past, this is for the, which department, the
This will be
building?
for the building department. It would be shared between at least 2 employees.
It says here, one stated that he would contact the city of St. Clair with a lease deal, but that has not been received.
Right.
Thank you.
In the past, haven't we, like, taken a hand-me-down from, like, the police department or whatever? For, I mean, I just can't remember buying a new vehicle for building.
I don't think there has been a purchase for building in quite some time.
Okay.
I did not look into the history of it. For
I,
comparison.
don't get me wrong, they definitely need a
Right,
vehicle.
right. Oh,
I
I
just want to
understand
make
what
sure
you're
that we're
saying.
doing the
Yeah.
right thing, buying a brand-new one.
Right.
And, I mean, you got anything you're getting ready to retire soon, chief, or?
No, in fact, Councilmember Kleeman brought up the old police car. Did we sell that? I don't remember.
The harbor stole his car.
Should we follow up leasing, seeing it's not in?
I'd
here?
like to wait, I mean, if we can, I mean, he's been driving that thing way too long anyway. I think another 2 weeks ain't gonna make a big deal, but,
Well,
'cause we have another Liberty that's in pretty rough shape too, if I'm not mistaken, that the rec uses.
Yeah, there's 2 Jeep Liberties.
I hate to
One
say
is
it, but
used
those vehicles are
seasonally.
an embarrassment. They really are.
Yeah, I will say time may be of the essence. I know that a couple weeks ago, when I first presented some information to council, we didn't talk about it or discuss it. I just shared, the one page. There were 10 vehicles available, and as of last Friday, there were only 4 vehicles available.
Mm-hmm.
They are holding one. There's no pressure, there's no, you don't have to do it. I'm just saying.
Right, no, I understand what you're saying.
We might not get it if we wait another 2
Right, I get it.
When you say this is new, though, it's a 2020, isn't that correct?
This is a 2022.
Oh, I thought I saw 2020 on here
Well,
somewhere.
there's a couple of
Oh, the
used
Escape
ones
on the
here.
back, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
the whole packet, it includes the purchase.
So we're looking at
The recommended purchase and a bunch of comparisons just for prices.
Well, I would be against a lease, but I'm interested in why you're interested in a lease. I mean, if we're getting 15, 16 years out of a vehicle that we're paying $25,000 for, I think that's a pretty good deal over the years, over the life of a vehicle. If we're looking at a 2006 Liberty that we're still using, right?
I don't think we want them for 15 years, like, because they're looking pretty rough.
That's the
but
problem.
My question would be, what was the last,
This looks.
well,
I don't look that good either.
from a maintenance, fixing, I've seen those vehicles in for repair quite a bit. I don't know what the last 5 years of cost has been on those vehicles.
Sure.
So if we can turn to leasing programs and avoid that, or have a comparable price but have a new vehicle, that's just, I have the same question, like, just to understand, I guess, what that term of 15 years looks like. from a leasing program to owning what we have and what the cost is. I don't know if we've looked at that, but
So would you like a proposal for a leased vehicle? before-
yes. And then do we, is there any way to get a rough cost on what
Repairs.
these vehicles with repairs have cost us over the last 15 years?
Over the last, since 2015, yes, because we switched over our program.
That'd probably
So,
tell us a
yeah.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would tell us
Yep.
a lot.
So repair cost for the current Jeep Liberty?
Yeah.
And this would be funded from the building department?
Yes.
And I thought I read somewhere where they were planning on keeping the Liberty too and using 2 vehicles. Did I read that right somewhere? I don't know why I remember.
At this time, it would not be put out for bid, yes. Because although this vehicle would be considered a building department vehicle, which currently has 3 employees in it, only 2 really use the vehicle. Recreation also uses the vehicle. The white Jeep Liberty is used for the seasonal parks. There's a red truck that's used for DPW seasonal. So currently, recreation and building go back and forth with the blue Jeep Liberty. So it's needed right now unless council wants to consider a vehicle for recreation as well. Just throwing that out
Wow.
there.
Yeah, that was pretty much to the point.
Yeah.
What a deal.
So I made a couple notes to get some information regarding a lease proposal and repairs for the current vehicle for the last 15 years. Is there any other information you'd like from me?
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right. So we'll move to F. Think our Parks and Recs Commission 2022 local millage distribution of funds.
Yes, it is a requirement for the local governmental unit to approve receipt of the funds from the county parks millage.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motions been made and approved, supported to accept the, looks like, $27,000 from the county parks. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll see why not.
G, discuss St. Clair PD security cameras. Thank you, Chief, that's the one.
This is the one. I need either your permission or a motion to start and sign on with Flock Safety Systems for the automatic license plate readers. Be placed at different parts of the city for the 60-day free trial and then determine exactly how many we need.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
The second, I assume you would like me to get a bid for body cameras. I'll get a bid for 8 and a bid for 4 and everything we need, redaction, everything, and bring that number to you at the next meeting.
Give us that and give us what it's gonna cost to, like, on a yearly basis for whatever software, whatever he's gotta do.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, all right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Chief.
Oh, you're staying right here.
Yeah.
H, special event, Blue Water Offshore Race, River Classic.
I have all the paperwork from Blue Water Offshore, and I recommend you approve it. It's for, I don't have it in front of me, July, it's the last weekend of July.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And
Opposed? AI is the lease for Blue Water Offshore.
this isn't me, right?
All right, you're good, Chief.
That's
Thank
not
you.
me.
2 things to note before you motion for the approval of the lease. Everything is the same as previous years, just 2 things I wanted to point out. Blue Water Offshore Racing Association will once again use the parking lot of Pine Shores. Boathouse owners will be made aware of the lease, and Blue Water Offshore Racing Association will be made aware that access must be granted to the boathouse owners. The lease also indicates the boardwalk will be open to the public from at least 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. during the duration of the lease. Everything else remains constant as previous years.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion made, support, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? J, approve board and commission appointments. Through consideration of the Golf Commission, I would like to appoint Ken Schonk for a 4-year term expiring December 31st, 2025.
So moved.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 10 is claimed to the council for June 9 and June 16, 2022.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Support. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 11, public questions and comments. Anybody have any non-agenda items they'd like to talk about?
Evan Rude, 602 South 8th Street. And I would like to know why A was put on hold tonight.
Counselor expressed to me that they need more time to consider it, look into it, research it, such as that.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Okay, council had expressed to me before the meeting that they needed more time, wanted more time to look into it, research it, and give it more consideration.
And by council meaning more time, is that meetings? I mean, I've followed this stuff pretty closely, obviously, after what I went through 4 years ago. And it seems kind of unprecedented from other things I've seen to go through planning and have nothing happen. Just an observation. And, you know, I'm not here to cause trouble, but I feel like in the beginning, I went through a lot of things a lot of people wouldn't put up with, including people who stood up here and admitted they followed me, stalked me, you know, my business being shut down before COVID came, which we all realize what that's like now. And, you know, I've been to a lot of planning commission meetings in the last 4 years, and it just seems kind of unprecedented. I mean, I even go back to the first time around when one of the opinions was I might make Clinton Avenue too busy, which is an argument I didn't hear when Eddy Elementary has how many businesses in it. So I'm just a little concerned that, once again, it seems like I'm the only one this has happened to, you know, after making it through the planning commission like I did. So.
And Evan, just maybe this will alleviate some of your concern. This council has taken recommendations from the planning commission and asked for more time.
Okay.
We've sent things back to the planning commission. I mean, we've run the whole gambit. Yeah.
Okay. I was just,
Do we plan on going back over this next meeting?
yeah, I guess that would be another question is what am I looking at time frame, like another, I mean, not that I'm in a huge hurry, I'm just, you know, it seems.
Right, because I mean, I know you're open and running your business and.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say our next meeting is July 5th, Tuesday. The
Okay.
day after 4th of July, Monday.
Okay.
I would hope that we have some sort of work session or whatever, how we want to call it, but to deal with this and get the information shared with council.
Okay.
That's what I hope.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Evan. Anybody else? All right, we'll go to number 12 then. Any council, anybody have, I have a few things. Art fairs this weekend? 4th of July, fireworks going off at dusk. Our next meeting is July 5th, which is a Tuesday. So that means that week, trash pickup will be,
I don't think it will be delayed, but I will check that, and it'll be posted on the website and on our social media pages.
anybody else have anything?
So are we planning a workshop for that July 5, 6 p.m. start?
If amongst that issue and anything else, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else?
Hearing nothing else, Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, have a good night, everybody, be safe.